Alexander Cannon came to our city, which is a very small place south of Hyderabad in South India, and he preached the gospel. My great-great-grandfather is the one who came to know the Lord. We are from a different community, we are not Christians, and so I'm a fourth generation Christian. So all this time, the families owe to the Anglicans, and Alexander Cannon was from Church of England, and he was the one who preached the gospel to us. And I was baptized by the Anglicans, and we in India is called as CSI, Church of South India. And I'm so honored to come and preach the message here in this church. I thank the pastors, I thank the members for giving me this opportunity to share the word of God with you all. Today I want to share from the book of Genesis, from the life of Abraham, and I want to look into one aspect of Abraham which actually made me to think very seriously the concept of commitment. Now, if you look at the whole book of Genesis, the whole book of Genesis can be read in different ways. And one of the ways is this. The book of Genesis is a book which has several characters which are exclusively picked up by God. For example, if you look at the characters in the book of Genesis, we have Abel, who is known for his worship. And then we have Enoch, who is known for his godly walk. And then we have Noah, who is known for his committed work. And then we have Abraham, who was patiently waiting for the Lord. So these are the characters who actually develop the beginnings of the Christian faith. And then we have Isaac, who has completely surrendered himself to the cause of his father. And then we have Jacob, who was always having a hope that one day his people would be going to the promised land. And finally, we have Joseph, who was a perfect personality, lived a perfect model life. So these are the 7 characters we can find in book of Genesis. There is also another way of looking at book of Genesis. Book of Genesis has 50 chapters. If you can make the book of Genesis into 4 parts, each part will have about 12 to 13 chapters. So after every 12 chapters, you have a new prominent character evolving. In the first quarter, you have Noah, who is known for righteousness. In the second quarter, you have Abraham, who is known for faith. And in the third quarter, you have Jacob, who is known for hope. And in the last quarter, you have Joseph, who is known for love. So these are the 4 characters, and these are the 4 personalities we have in the Bible. In fact, in the New Testament, these are the 4 essential qualities a Christian should have. Christian should be having righteousness, faith, hope, and love. So the God of these 4 characters is our God. That's how we look at the book of Genesis. But today I want to look upon this one character called Abraham. Abraham is a great man. Abraham is the father of at least 3 renowned religions in the world. Number 1 is Judaism, number 2 is Christianity, and number 3 is Islam. But very interestingly, till the year 1922, there was no outside evidence for the existence of this great person called Abraham. 1922. And apart from one reference in the book called Antiquities, written by Josephus Flavius, there is no reference of Abraham anywhere in the world. So people were presuming that Abraham is a created character, and this character was created so that these huge religions could exist. But in the 1922, the southwest of Baghdad, there was a drilling going on, and in a desert-like area, they came across a brick. Brick is always human-made. Rock is natural. So they thought there must be something interesting, and they found it's been inhabited by people several years ago. So it has been entrusted to the British people, and particularly to group of archaeologists from Pennsylvania University to come and actually dig that place. Charles Leonard Woolley, that's the name, Charles Leonard Woolley. He did a huge investigation in that area from the year 1922 to 1934 for 12 long years. And in the process, he brought out so many things into light. In that area, there was a huge civilization living nearly 4,000 years ago. They were basically moon worshippers. They are very rich people, and it's a huge city having over 350,000 people living at one time. And as they were digging, they even found tombs and the relics of various people, and in the process, they found a pot with an inscription in Akkadian language, and that inscription, when decoded, they understood the name of that place is Ur. And that is the place from where Abraham was come out. So we now have a clear historical evidence that Abraham is a man in the history. And in the year 2013, that's very recently, 5 years ago, after Saddam Hussein has been completely removed, they further did the investigation and they found out a massive complex, and they presumed that this is possibly the house of Abraham. And the investigations are still going, and the diggings are still going, and probably we may get lots of information in the days to come. But here we have a clear historical evidence that Abraham is a man in the history. And these people, the people living in Ur, that is 130 kilometers south of Baghdad, southwest of Baghdad, it is now called Tel Mukhayar. Tel in Arabic language means a mountain, and Mukhayar is the name of the place. It is called Mount Mukhayar, that's what we can understand. In fact, that mount has formed because of the debris of that old civilization. And you remember Saddam Hussein, to hide himself from the attacks of various peoples, he used to have a bunker. A bunker is a steel construction of a room-like thing that goes at least 5 kilometers inside the ground, 500 meters inside the ground, half a kilometer, 500 meters inside the ground. And he did that to avoid the attacks of his enemies. He had 3 bunkers, and the most sophisticated bunker he had in Tel Mukhayar, built by the Germans. And why he had the bunker built in Tel Mukhayar? This man, Saddam Hussein, was having 3 enemies, and those 3 enemies are his neighboring country, Iran, then little further is Israel, and then little far away is America. Americans are Christians, Israelites are Jews, and the Iranians are Muslims. And all these 3 look at Abraham as their father. So he thought sentimentally these people will not bombard this place. That's why he hid himself in Tel Mukhayar. In fact, Americans went there and dug him out from that place, and he was later hanged to death. So I'm just giving a piece of information to say that that is the place from where God called this great man called Abraham. And we are actually looking into his life. Now, if you look at the background of this man, Abraham and his father, Terah, and others, they were basically idol makers. They used to make idols. Back in India, we have different festivals where during those festivals, these idols are installed so that they can be worshipped. So, Abraham's father is a renowned idol maker, and that's what he used to do. They used to worship moon. Moon used to have different names, and they were able to dug out 11 different kinds of names that were given to moon god. And the top name, the most popular name was Nan. Nan means moon. And the very familiar name, which has spread all over the world, a feminine name for this is Selena. Selena is moon goddess. Some of you might be having this name as Selena, and that means moon goddess. So this is how they used to worship. Now, to make the long story very short, when Abraham was carrying these idols which are made by his father, he used to place them in the front so that people could come and buy. Josephus Flavius, in his book called Antiquities, who wrote about the Jewish history, makes a statement, writes about Abraham. I don't know from where he got that statement, but he wrote this statement. Abraham, it seems, in a what you call sarcastic way, used to speak to the idols and say, "Are you my God? If you are my God, why am I carrying you? You should carry me." So he used to make that statement sarcastically. Probably God looked at that sarcasm and thought this guy would be useful for me, and that's why he picked up Abraham. Otherwise, we don't have any clue why God picked up Abraham. But the obedience of Abraham not only brought Jesus Christ into this world, but he has become the father of all of us through faith. Such a great personality, such a great person. But even in his faith, even in his commitment, it did not happen all of a sudden. That is what I want to expound today. Faith is a thing that grows over a period of time. Commitment doesn't come all of a sudden. It has to grow. As you read the Word of God, as you give yourself to the Word, as you give yourself to the Spirit of God, as you give yourself to God, then you slowly grow up in your faith and you finally become a committed person. And you want to see how that happens in this life of this man, Abraham. If you have your Bibles, open with me to book of Genesis chapter 12. Book of Genesis chapter 12. And these 4 verses are very crucial for Christianity, for missions, for church, for everything. Because they are the foundation, they are the reason why we have grown this large all over the world. I'm going to read it from the English Standard Version. Genesis chapter 12, verse 1. Now the Lord said to Abraham, "Go from your country and from your kindred and from your father's house to the land that I will show you." So that's where the call has come. And when you look into this passage, we understand this call has come when he was in a place called Haran. When he was in a place called Haran. If you go down in verse 2, 3, 4, it says they were in Haran. Where exactly is this Haran? Now I have to give a little bit of geography. As I told you, Ur is in the mouth of Mesopotamia, in the river that is banking on the rivers of Euphrates and Tigris. So that is south of Baghdad in Iraq. Now try to remember this. It is in Iraq. But Haran is not in Iraq. It's in Syria. The distance between Ur and Haran is about 500 kilometers. It is 500 kilometers. So this call which we read in Genesis chapter 12 verse 1, it happened when Abraham was in Haran. But we know that Abraham belongs to a place called Ur. So how do we now integrate these two? Now that is the big issue. Now if you look into the other passages that are related to the call of Abraham, we can clearly understand that Abraham was not called once, but Abraham was called twice. Abraham was called twice. When was Abraham called first? He was called when he was in Ur. Probably when he was called in Ur, he was given the same call. The call was to leave your people, to leave your parents, to leave everything and come to me. But when he was called in Ur, he did not leave completely. He left partial. He brought with himself his father Terah. That's what he did. It was a partial obedience. Am I reading too much into it? Or am I giving my own interpretation? I'm sorry, I'm not doing it. I want to give you scriptural evidence. Can you open with me to Acts chapter 7? Acts chapter 7. Acts chapter 7 is a very prominent passage where we have a huge message given by a man called Stephen. Stephen gave a message before the leaders, the Jewish leaders, and his message is based on the Jewish history, how their nation got evolved or formed, and finally how they arrived in the promised land. He gave the whole history and concluded with the presentation of Jesus Christ. So he begins like this, Acts chapter 7, verse 2. And Stephen said, "Brothers and fathers, hear me. The Lord of glory appeared to our father Abraham when he was in Mesopotamia, before he lived in Haran." Now see how beautiful it is. He appeared, the God of glory appeared to our father Abraham when he was in Mesopotamia, before he lived in Haran, and said to him, "Go out from your land, from your kindred, and go into the land that I will show you." That's a clear-cut call. God gave the call to Abraham when he was in Ur. But when he was in Ur, he did not listen to God completely. He did not surrender himself to God completely. He brought with himself his father. But I don't want to look down at Abraham. Even to move out of Ur to Haran is not an ordinary thing. Because Abraham and his father Terah, they are very rich, very rich. How do you count anybody rich in those days? In the present world, you are considered to be rich if you have a big bank balance, if you have great gold ornaments, if you have huge property like lands or factories or machinery. That's how you will be called as rich. But in those days, how people are considered to be rich? They were not having bank balance, they were not having currency, they were having animals, cattle, sheep, donkeys, camels. That is their riches. So, if they want to move out of their place with their riches, they need to carry all their animals. It would be a huge movement. It's almost like this. If you read Genesis chapter 14, when Abraham's Lot was kidnapped by somebody, Abraham, to redeem Lot, he took 318 young men who are with him, who can wage war, and finally rescued Lot. All these people, 318, it says they were born in Abraham's home. Who are they? Abraham was not having children. They are all slaves. If there were 380 young men, there must be many more young ladies than smaller kids, their fathers and mothers. So, Bible scholars say Abraham was having not less than 3,000 slaves to work under him. 3,000 slaves to work under him. I come from India. In India, the richest man present living is Mukesh Ambani. And Mukesh Ambani is considered to be very rich, and his property is calculated on a daily basis. But for him to take care of his personal life, there are 600 servants. 600 servants. So if I have to compare Mukesh Ambani and Abraham, it would be like this. 5 Mukesh Ambanis will make 1 Abraham. He is that rich. He is very rich. And it is not an ordinary thing to step out of your home, which is your place, your palace, your comfort zone, and move away 500 kilometers. It might have taken not less than 3 to 4 months to travel to Haran. That definitely is faith, but it is not complete faith. It is not complete faith. Why I'm speaking all that here today? As Christians, when we come to this kind of church, we can definitely say we have faith. We have faith in Jesus Christ. And every Sunday or every time we come here to listen to the Word of God, we declare and we say or we pronounce our faith. We pronounce our Apostolic Creed. We pronounce our Nicene Creed. Why? We say that is our faith. But is our faith 100%? Is our faith completely depending upon God? Probably it is not. We have faith in God and also faith in something else. That's what we see in Abraham. He was having faith in God. That's why he moved out. Remember, Abraham heard God probably once, or he might have seen God in his glory once, and he might have been worried. Who are you? He said, I am your God. Leave your daddy, leave your family, and come to the country I am going to show you. I am going to make you rich. And he has to believe those words. It's not an ordinary thing. He believed it. Probably he went to his daddy and said, Daddy, I saw God. What? Did you see Selena? Did you see Nan? No. This is a different God. How he looks? Is he a sun? Is he a moon? Is he a star? No. He's the creator of moon and sun and star. What? I saw that God. He spoke to me. He said, come, leave your father and all. No, I will not leave you. I will also come with you. Okay, you be the captain and I'll come with you. Definitely, there is a movement. But the issue is, it's not complete. Now, I'm not just picking up only one verse and developing all this. I'll give you one more verse to prove my concept. Joshua, book of Joshua, chapter 24. Book of Joshua, chapter 24, verse 2. Book of Joshua, chapter 24, verse 2. And Joshua said to all the people, Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, long ago your fathers lived beyond the Euphrates. Again, Euphrates is in Iraq. Haran is in Syria. Lived in beyond the Euphrates. Terah, the father of Abraham and Nahor, and they served other gods. Then I took your father Abraham from beyond the river and led him through all the land of Canaan and made his offspring many. That's what God says. I called him there when he was beyond Euphrates, when he was near to Mesopotamia, when he was in Iran, the present world. And from there he came and he settled in Haran. And he was there in Haran till Terah died. Now I'll come back to Genesis chapter 11. I'm reading from verse 31. Terah took Abraham his son, and Lot the son of Haran, his grandson, and Sarai, his daughter-in-law, his son Abraham's wife, and they went forth together from Ur of the Chaldeans into the land of Canaan. But when they came to Haran, they settled there. When they came to Haran, they settled there. So God brought them from Ur of Chaldeans into the place called Haran. And when Terah was 205 years old, he died. After Terah died, now the Lord again appeared to Abraham and he started speaking. Now from here, I want to develop a clear understanding, exposition. When God calls us, He calls us into a life of hardship. That you should understand. Christian life is a life that needs challenges. It's a life that needs challenges. If you want a Christian life that is comfortable, probably you're wrong. Jesus Christ said, if anybody wants to follow me, they have to pick up their cross, carry it, and follow me. That's it. You need to be killed anytime. You need to go into any kind of hardship anytime. So the call of Abraham is a call to hardship. If you are not willing to take up that hardship, you cannot be my disciple. You cannot be my disciple. All my brethren, all my sisters, I would like to remind you this. If you want to be a child of God, if you want to be somebody to exercise faith in God, you must be willing to take the hardship, the hard life. I'm not saying that you will be facing hardship in any other area, but your hardship is regarding your faith. It's regarding your lifestyle. The simple thing is, if you are living as a Christian, completely obedient to God, the world and Satan will definitely have a conflict with you. The world and Satan will have a conflict with you. If you are not having that conflict, that means you have compromised. You have compromised. Now, the Bible doesn't speak much about Abraham's life in Haran. He might have lived there 10 to 15 years, but nothing has been said about it because it was a compromised life. When you are in a compromised position, God cannot do anything to you. God cannot do anything to you. If God has to work in your life, you need to get into the hardship. You should be willing to have that hardship. Not able to leave is the big challenge for many of us. We are holding on to certain things and we don't want to live. It's something like this. We hold God, at the same time we want to hold somebody else. And today, I just want to ask you this thing. What is that you are holding on that is not enabling you to completely surrender to God? That is not enabling you to be used of God. Let me tell you one thing. If you are not willing to leave, sometimes you can destroy yourself. If you are not able to leave, you can destroy yourself. I'll give you two examples. One example is from the technical world. The other example is from an example I've learned in India. The technical world is this. You know the space launching facility, and if you are able to watch on YouTube how the spaceship is being launched. I had once the privilege of watching the launching of a spaceship. It goes like this. It's a huge machine and it's very heavy, tons and tons. And the vehicle moves almost 100 meters an hour. 100 meters an hour. It goes very slow to the launching position. It goes that speed. After it goes there, when everything is set and it is blasted, liquid nitrogen is blasted, then a huge machine takes off. That huge machine, when it is taking off, it will be between 8 to 10 kilometers per second. 8 to 10 kilometers per second. Remember, it moved at 100 meters an hour and then 8 to 10 kilometers per second. After 1500 kilometers, one of the bigger part is separated and the smaller part is left. Once the smaller part is there, then it goes into a second level of speed, and that will be 230 kilometers per second. And that is the second stage. And that goes little further, and probably 2500 kilometers or something like that. After that, the second object gets separated. And once the second object is separated, the machine is very small, hardly 150 kilos or something like that. And that is stationed there and it works there. A lot of spaceships get spoiled. They say, we could not launch the spaceship. Do you know what will be the major problem in the spaceship launching? Not able to leave. That bigger part, if it is not leaving, at that point, the spaceship collapses. In the same way, there are certain things you are holding. God says, you leave that, and I'm going to use you. It can be a relation. It can be a habit. It can be an issue. It can be a dirty desire. I don't know. You leave it. I'm going to use you. But you're not leaving. That's why God is not able to use you. The second example, it may look a little ridiculous, but it can explain very well. I have been to northeast part of India several times, and there are some tribal people who were headhunters 100 years ago, but now all of them are Christians. And that state is called Nagaland. Okay? These Naga people are more or less like Chinese. They eat different kinds of animals. It's very common for them. They eat dog, they eat elephant, they eat monkey, and all those things. And I ate monkey thrice. And one day, a friend of mine, his name is Insu, he said, Edward, if you are able to catch a monkey and kill it just now when it is still hot,